Welcome back to Ministry of Reconciliation through Social Innovation, Chapter 4, How to Measure the Effectiveness of Ministry. This is lesson number 16. And have you wondered if your ministry is effective or not? Whether your ministry will be viable in the future? How do you know if your participation is imperative? We cannot, keep doing the same old, and expect to see any changes in our communities, and not to mention in our personal spiritual growth. So David, Winter claims that successful leaders and managers must use positive power of influence to influence others, to monitor results, and to sanction performance. So the performance evaluation and assessment, we call it PEA, performance evaluation and assessment, is an inevitable component of leadership success. So therefore, leaders should utilize the opportunity strategically to build trust between leaders and followers, and organizations and customers. The process ensures accountability and responsibility with a commitment to serve in a better ways and to trust in each other's strengths. So the PEA, performance evaluation and assessment, also accommodates the culture of change. I know we don't want change. We want to avoid any change, but change is inevitable. The world is continually evolving. We must be flexible to that change. So through its process, directly and indirectly, participants are motivated to change, understanding the strength and weakness, and the ability to incorporate enhancement to improve oneself with the benefit organizationally and personally. So it brings high participatory involvement of people and their organization. So in addition, through its process, you can identify tangible outcomes that people could measure successfully. So output is quantitative and outcome is qualitative. Output is how many goods and services you have distributed, and outcomes are the impact that you create due to your engagement. So however, even though we understand the importance and value of its evaluation and assessment, often it is difficult task to implement, properly. So this is because often its performance measurement tools become a popularity contest or opportunity to bring negative criticism in public, based on one's behavioral attitude. It is extremely important to structure the PEA, performance evaluation assessment, strategically in order to truly measure the process and outcomes. The organization's mission and goals and objectives consistent with its program and financial allocations. What about the organizations, are you able to incorporating multicultural and intergenerational involvement? How is the organizational sustainability? So much careful thought and strategy are required upfront, maximizing the benefits of evaluation assessment. So you have to invest careful planning upfront. So the bottom line is that we cannot avoid evaluation. We must evaluate our effectiveness and efficiency of ministry. Whether we are in education, business, ministry, nonprofit management, it doesn't make any difference. We must evaluate the viability of the program at the end. Otherwise, how do we know whether we are making a difference? As I said, we are living in an emerging world, and change is inevitable. Yeah, because we are continually evolving. So there are demands that churches and parachurch organizations should demonstrate tangible impact, not just doing events and activities, although they are important, but we don't want to become event-driven organization. So church is not exempt from this pressure to discover which ministry or service really makes a difference in the community outreach ministry or even individual's life. So members, in fact, want the performance measures so they can hold church leadership accountable, as it is done for private and public sector leadership effectiveness. So for-profit organizations usually define their success based on the bottom line. How much of goods and services they deliver and profit they generate. So their primary goal is to generate revenue. However, the mission for nonprofits, such as church and parachurch organization, is to bring about changes in societal values in order to make the world a better place to live with the values of the kingdom of God and biblical principles. So our measurement has to be different. We cannot measure our success just based on bottom line, like for-profit organizations. Our measurement has to be, are we being faithful to our calling? So its measure of a success is not how much of profit it makes, but the extent to which it makes a difference, adding values to people, adding values to our community, our society. So nonprofit organizations are seeking not only outputs in measurable result, but also outcome and impact as to how they made difference in individuals' life and the impact of how the community was transformed because of their influence in society. So the performance measurement is to create new social values in making the world a better place to live. Individuals in the community are looking for ways to give back to society and to be engaged in community support. So moreover, they are looking to do in a way that is convenient, but at the same time, publicly demonstrate their support in providing opportunities to serve God and His humanity. In fact, Harry Hatchery offers a list of measurements for public sector performance. He suggests that by incorporating these performance measurements, the public sector leadership will accomplish greater results and enhance their credibility. And let's see how these measurements are beneficial to parachurch organization and faith-based community. First, respond to elected officials and the public demands for accountability. So accountability is important. We need to be accountable to our constituents, our members and the supporters, and our communities all around. As accountability. And second, make a budget request. So the budget has to be transparent. We have to communicate clearly how we have utilized, people's give self-sacrificially. So we must have transparent financial transaction and communicating how our the financial resources have been reallocated in terms of making a difference. And then do internal budgeting, which means another checks and balance. Make sure that we have a system in place that we will not misuse any fundings. Make sure that designated fundings are allocated for that specific purpose. And number 4, trigger in-depth examinations of performance problems and possible correction. Again, yesterday we talked about importance of formative evaluation. So as we established a benchmark, the landmark along the journey, we need to carefully, measure our effectiveness and the performance, whether there is a possibility that we need to change course of action, so forth. So that is important. And number 5, motivate. We have to motivate people with a vision. We cannot motivate people with the rules and regulations and do's and don'ts. No, we need to motivate people with a dream. God came from heaven to earth, and He wants to reconcile the world. And we have to have that conviction, being part of God's redemptive plan of salvation. So we need to motivate people with the big picture for the kingdom of God. And then we have to have contractual agreement with our community supporters and participants. And then we must fulfill those agreements. We need to become dependable and trustworthy organization. So when we have contract agreement with any projects and activities with the public, we must fulfill. So number 7, evaluate. Again, we have to do formative evaluation and summative evaluation to make sure we are measuring our not only quantitative success, but also quality of delivery. And number 8, support strategic planning. So we cannot just do events. Sometimes we do isolated events, and one event is not connected to a next event. So make sure we have at least 3 to 5 years of a strategic engagement, and that engagement has to be revisited and reframed, along the way. So we must have greater commitment. We engage strategically, not accidentally or just having a program. Number 9, communicate better with the public to and gain the public trust. There are times that we go to our community and asking for their donation for projects, church projects. But until a year later, we do not go back to our donors. And we don't even have any communication tools. There's no brochure, pamphlets, nothing, to demonstrate how we have made a difference with their giving. Then you wonder why people are not, trusting us. People are not giving, toward to our parachurch organizational, activities and projects. So we have to communicate frequently. At least, quarterly, we must revisit our contributors from our community and explain to them how things are going and the progress that we are making, so that they can build, the trust in our integral, engagement and our success eventually. And number 10, to improve, continually improving the quality of service. So, we are all imperfect. So we have to believe that there's always room to improve. In fact, Hardy is convinced that to improve the condition of society is the fundamental reason for performance measurement. And it indicates it is intended to make program improvements that lead to improved outcomes. So when you don't have commitment to make a difference in improving quality of delivery, then you will not have improved outcomes. So that's the bottom line. You have to begin with that conviction. In fact, this list is also parallel, complementary with the recommendation from Robert Bann. He also presents 8 purposes that public and private nonprofit sector managers we must be aware of and implement in this measuring performance. So number 1, he says evaluate. Again, we must embrace the importance of evaluating our effectiveness of ministry. How well is my, organization's performance? Are we known for a certain, expertise? Are we dependable? Are we trustworthy in the delivery? Number 2, control. How can I ensure that my subordinates and my people that I work with, my followers, are doing the right thing? So it's not to micromanage, but make sure we provide the parameter for people to engage and think and with a greater conceptual skill set and analytical skill set and decision-making, skill set to contribute. So again, it's not a micromanagement, but we create a safe environment for people to add values collectively and growing together and collaboratively enhancing the quality of our service. And then number 3, budget. Again, we must be transparent. What programs and the people, projects that we are investing, time and resource. Sometimes, we do not value as we ought to be. When people give, especially to church, in a parachurch organization, they are sharing their precious treasure, a sacrificial gift. So we cannot, misappropriate those self-giving, sacrificial giving for the programs. So we need to vanguard any misuse of, a financial allocation and transactions. So it has to be communicate with a high degree of transparency. Number 4, motivate. How can I motivate people that I work with internally and externally? And the people that I work with, nonprofit sector, for-profit sector, the people outside of the church that we are collaborating, and the people who are supporting and sponsoring. So citizens in our community. So how do we create opportunity to motivate them to be involved? So it's not like, come and see what we are doing, but we need to intentionally involve the people in part of the decision-making process so that they will have self-motivation. It would be more mission-driven motivation. So it's not us versus them, but we need to have this collective impact, collective engagement. And we will have a greater motivation from internally and externally. Number 5, promote. So how can I convince people that I work with internally and externally and promote our service, our engagement? So it's, again, not the church to the community, but church with. So we need to have different entities, political sector, different stakeholders, even journalists and the media and citizens in our community, and they need to become spokesperson for our ministry. So rather than we blowing our own horn, the community stakeholders, community sponsors, community supporters will become champion on our behalf. So when these individuals who are not part of our organization directly, talking about the impact that we are creating in our ministry, I guarantee you we will have a greater respect from public, and also we will enhance our the capacity of the organization. And number 6, celebrate. So what accomplishments are worthy of the important organizational ritual of celebrating success? So 5 years is a long time. So this is why we have create benchmarks in every year, some tangible success that we can celebrate. So every year we set aside the benchmark, and then when we accomplish that, we tangibly, recognizably celebrate, which will help people to develop greater motivation and the commitment to continue this journey. So if you set aside 5 years engagement and do not have any recognition along the way, people will get weary. So we need to develop this intrinsic interest. Make sure we celebrate along the way when we are accomplishing these landmarks that we have set aside. And number 7, to learn. What is working and what is not working. I mean, my mentor, Dr. Bruce Moyer, he said, there is only one experience, positive experience. You learn from your mistake. So what he was saying was, it's okay for us to make a mistake, but what is not okay is not learn from it. So we always learn from our journey. Sometimes things are working, so we learn from it. Sometimes things are not working. It's okay, we learn from it also. So what is working and what is not working. So we as a church, parachurch organization, we must become the learning environment where we are continually learning what is working and not working. How can we improve? How can we change the course of action so we can make a difference at the end? Number 8, to improve. Again, what exactly should someone do differently to improve performance? What we have done, last 5-10 years, maybe it was successful, but the same methodology may not be relevant in today. So we have to continually improve the way we think and work so that we will have a greater impact at the end. As the public sector and nonprofit sector focusing on impact and improvement of quality of life and environments, we as a church, we cannot measure our success only quantitatively, numbers, such as number of memberships, or how many people attend the church, or how many local churches we have, or educational institutions, or healthcare network. We cannot just define our success based on quantitative data. We must incorporate performance measurement in our public evangelism and the life-on-life evangelism and community outreach ministry, all aspects of our engagement, whether you are in educational institution or healthcare, it doesn't make any difference. The performance measurement is systematic way to evaluate our effectiveness and efficiency, and of proclaiming the good news and the way to create new social values in making the world a better place to live for the kingdom of God. So therefore, the focus is on the result of local impact and implementation, not the charity, per se. So the missional church movement is not only proclaim the good news through public evangelism, but also demonstrating the love of God through community outreach ministry. Life on life evangelism. So in our ministry, we cannot prioritize which is more important than the other, because in my humble opinion, life on life evangelism is a continuum of public evangelism. So it must be connected. So it is not enough to count what we have. For example, how many goods we distributed, how many people we served. We need to focus on making a difference in their lives as an individual and our community as a part of the kingdom of God. The whole communities, are we increasing their knowledge? Are we enhancing their skill set? Are we influencing them, their attitude and their behavior with the kingdom values and principles? So we must demonstrate our faithfulness to God's cause by fulfilling the duty to reach those around us. So that is why the performance measurement is critical. As a missional church movement, we must learn how to apply performance measurement to our ministries to accomplish systematic changes, which will result in more effective and efficient ways to improve the people's lives and transforming our community. In fact, Andrea Anderson describes how and why a set of activities should be part of highly focused program or a comprehensive initiative. And leaders should lead this early outcome, the immediate outcome, and also intermediate outcomes and long-term outcomes, over a specified the period of time. So, as a part of lesson 16, here is an exercise. Exercise 16. I want you to revisit. I want you to revisit how are we measuring our success. So your church, your organization, what is your scorecard, lack of a better word? So how do you measure your success? And then what is your PEA, the performance evaluation and assessment method? What sort of a methodology do you use? How do you measure your success? So I want you to take a look at that. So please reframe our PEA, performance evaluation and assessment, on these following three questions. Why do we exist? Number two, for whom do we exist? Number three, what has to be changed? So ask yourself, you as organizational leader, why do we exist in this community? So what is our, PEA for that question? For whom do we exist? So what is our PEA? And what has to be changed based on PEA? Hopefully you understand what I'm asking you to do. So look at your organization. How do you measure your success to begin with? What is your scorecard look like? And then compare with PEA based on these three questions. And hopefully you can begin to understand the difference of quantitative success and qualitative success.